Welcome to Nebula Narratives, where science fiction stories come to life. If you like science fiction audiobooks, this is the channel for you.
Chapter 2, Marcus Vale had spent half his adult life listening to other people panic for a living. Not real panic, usually. The curated kind. The performative kind. Late-night callers who swore they had seen lights over the river. Amateur conspiracy theorists who insisted the city water supply was being dosed with memory suppressants. Men with whiskey-thick voices who called in after midnight to confess crimes they had definitely invented for attention. Women who whispered about ghosts in stairwells or children speaking dead languages in their sleep. College kids making up alien abduction stories between laughs they thought no one could hear. Marcus took them all. He cut music in and out, adjusted levels, patched callers through, killed dead air, filtered nonsense, and kept the station moving until dawn. He was not the voice listeners recognized. He was the man behind the board, the one in the dim room with cold coffee and tired eyes, making sure everyone else sounded certain. Tonight, certainty had died before midnight. He knew that because the first interruption had not come from a caller. It came from the signal itself. Station KBRN occupied the 12th floor of an aging office building downtown, the kind with mirrored windows that reflected the city lights better than they reflected truth. The station's small studio suite always felt like it existed outside normal time. No daylight, no breeze, only old carpeting, blinking equipment, humming monitors, and a wall clock that sounded louder the later it got. Marcus liked that. At 32, he had perfected the art of turning detachment into a personality. It helped that he was good-looking in a way he rarely bothered to maintain. Dark hair that grew too fast, sharp cheekbones shadowed by an overdue shave, sleeves pushed up, tie long abandoned, expression fixed somewhere between clever and exhausted. He liked people best through glass, through speakers, through layers of circuitry that let him manage them at a safe distance. Tonight, the circuitry was acting strange. At 11:13 p.m., during a local news update, a burst of static rolled across the board hard enough to clip the meters into the red. Marcus frowned and pulled one ear cup off his headset. That's new. On the other side of the booth glass, the host, Gina Mercer, no relation to anyone except nicotine and bad judgment, kept reading from the teleprompter with only the slightest flicker in her voice. Police are responding to multiple incidents across the downtown core tonight, with city officials urging residents to avoid. The signal warped, not dropped, warped. Gina's voice slowed and deepened for half a second like the tape of reality had dragged under a thumb. Marcus straightened in his chair. The waveform on his screen shivered. Something was bleeding into the channel. He checked the console routing. Everything looked normal. Input levels stable, backup feeds inactive. Then static hissed through the left monitor again. Gina stopped talking mid-sentence and glanced toward the control room through the glass. Marcus held up one finger. Keep going. She gave him a look that communicated with professional precision that if this ruined her segment, she would murder him personally and maybe enjoy it. He mouthed, "Working on it." She rolled her eyes and continued reading. Marcus leaned over the board and isolated the interference. Not weather, not electrical hum, not a dirty cable. This had rhythm buried inside it, an intentional pattern, faint but repeating. He boosted the frequency range. Words almost surfaced, then vanished. He tapped the intercom. "Stretch the update if you can." Gina glanced down at her copy. "With what? Make something up. That's half the business." She smirked despite herself and shifted seamlessly. In other news, callers are reporting unusual delays along the waterfront corridor tonight as emergency services continue responding to scattered violent incidents. Scattered. That was one word for it. Marcus had seen the incoming feeds. Amateur video clips, dispatch audio fragments, scrambled local footage from stringers who ran toward trouble because nobody had taught them dignity. There had been fights in 2 subway stations, some kind of pileup near the viaduct, at least one fire in a residential tower, and a very weird string of emergency calls describing people attacking without provocation. It sounded like a city going bad in patches. Cities did that sometimes. Not like this, though. He brought the interference up again and heard it more clearly this time. Male voice, calm, clipped by static. "Hear this. Get to." Then it dissolved. Marcus sat back slowly. A pirate transmission? At this strength, he checked nearby frequencies, sweeping the dial through local AM/FM emergency bands, private utility channels. Static, crosstalk, a traffic helicopter, a dispatcher losing control of a call. Then again, faint but unmistakable. If you can hear this. Marcus stopped breathing for a second. The transmission was not on one channel. It was jumping, bleeding, hijacking whatever it could reach. That should not have been possible from a hobbyist rig. He opened the station's contact board and buzzed engineering. No answer. Tried again. Voicemail. Of course. He stood and grabbed his phone off the desk. No service. No bars, not weak signal. Nothing. Gina's voice in the booth sharpened unexpectedly. Marcus? He looked up. She was staring not at him, but at the small television mounted in the corner of the studio booth. The live news feed on screen had cut away from anchor desks to helicopter footage of the east side. Traffic snarled in every direction. A bus had jackknifed across an intersection. People were running between cars. Marcus walked into the booth and turned up the TV volume. Unconfirmed reports of assaults continuing across several neighborhoods. A field reporter was saying over rotor noise. Officials are asking residents to remain indoors until more information. Behind her, on the street below, a man tackled another man to the pavement and began hammering at him with both fists. The camera jerked away. Gina muttered, "That's not normal." "No," Marcus said. She pulled off her headphones. "What are they saying?" "They aren't saying anything useful yet." The producer's desk in the outer office rang. Once. Twice. Then a line of phones started lighting up together, blinking in a sudden chain reaction across the room. Gina laughed once, thin and humorless. "Well, they're awake now." Marcus moved back into the control room and hit speaker on the nearest active line. A man shouted immediately, words tumbling over one another. "Eating people, I'm telling you. I just saw a woman tear a guy's throat out at Main and Ellis, and the cops shot her, and she got back up." Marcus killed the line. Another flashed. He answered, "There's blood all over the train platform," a woman sobbed. "The doors won't open. We've been sitting here 20 minutes and there's something hitting the windows." He killed that line too. Gina stood in the booth doorway now, arms wrapped around herself. "Should we go off air?" Marcus looked at the board, the feeds, the phones, the interference. "No," he said automatically. Then, quieter, "I don't know." Another call came in, this one from Warren, the station manager, a man who sounded perpetually like he was calling from inside an expensive overcoat. Marcus picked up. "You seeing this?" "Stay on air," Warren said without preamble. "What?" "Stay on air. We're getting hammered with traffic. Keep local updates rolling. People need information. Then maybe send us some." I'm trying to get through to city media relations now. Good luck with that." In the background, Warren's end was full of voices. Doors slamming, someone saying the elevators had stopped. Then Warren came back on. "If things deteriorate, lock the suite and wait for police instructions." Marcus stared at the dead service bars on his phone. Deteriorate from what? But Warren had already hung up. Gina entered the control room and leaned over his shoulder as another burst of static rippled through the master output. This time the voice came through clean. "If you can hear this, get to Blackthorn Tower. Repeat, if you can hear this, get to Blackthorn Tower." Silence followed. Marcus and Gina looked at each other. "What the hell was that?" she asked. Marcus scrubbed back the live buffer and replayed it. Same voice, same phrasing, same weird composure, as if the speaker had recorded the message hours ago in a room far calmer than this one. "Blackthorn Tower," Gina repeated. "That's the old telecom building near Harbor East, right? Mostly empty now, I think. I used to do traffic reports from there when I interned. Creepy place. Lots of antenna gear." Marcus's pulse ticked up. Powerful transmission infrastructure. Backup power, maybe. Line of sight over half the city. He replayed the message again, less for the words than for the texture. There was room sound behind it. Low generator hum, maybe. Not a studio, not polished. Emergency, but controlled. Someone had planned this. Outside the suite windows, sirens Dopplered past in waves. Then came a sound that made both of them turn. A scream from somewhere below in the street. High and abrupt and cut short. Gina stepped toward the glass. Marcus moved with her. From 12 floors up, downtown looked unreal. Too clean. Too far away. The streets below should have been dull ribbons of headlights and taxis and pedestrians weaving home under neon. Instead, whole lanes sat frozen in place. Doors hung open on abandoned cars. Clusters of people ran in jags between intersections. At the corner below, 3 figures dragged a fourth to the pavement. "What is that?" Gina whispered. Marcus wished distance would turn it into something explainable. It did not. One of the 3 bent and did not straighten again. The fourth stopped moving. "Jesus," Gina said. A burst of gunfire cracked somewhere nearby, echoing between buildings. In the office behind them, every phone started ringing at once again. Marcus backed away from the window. "Get back on mic." She stared at him. "Are you insane?" "Yes," he said. "Apparently. We're staying useful until we can't." "Useful how?" "Telling people there's traffic by not letting dead air happen." She looked like she wanted to argue, but experience won. People in audio hated silence. Silence meant failure. Silence meant something had stopped. They went back to work. For the next 20 minutes, they turned the station into a lifeline, held together with tape and adrenaline. Gina delivered updates from whatever local feeds still functioned. Marcus filtered calls as fast as he could, discarding hysteria and keeping anything that sounded like direct observation. A nurse from a downtown hospital called in crying that patients were attacking staff. A bus driver said passengers had turned violent after one man collapsed and woke up wrong. A building superintendent reported residents pounding on apartment doors begging to be let in, then attacking whoever opened them. The pattern grew whether Marcus wanted it to or not. Bites, violence, collapse, then the dead getting back up. He did not say those words aloud. He was not ready to hear how insane they sounded in a room with microphones. At 11:51, the building lights flickered. Every screen in the control room blinked black, then surged back on through emergency backup. The server rack in the side closet let out an ugly, whining groan. Gina swore into a muted mic. Marcus checked the transmission chain. "We're still up. For now." A pounding rattled the outer suite door. Both of them froze. Not a knock. Pounding. Marcus crossed the office quietly, every instinct suddenly loud in his skin, and checked the hallway camera feed mounted near reception. The picture was grainy, fisheye distorted, but clear enough. One of the tenants from the accounting office across the hall was hitting the glass door with both hands. Her blouse was torn, one side dark with blood. Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly through the feed. Behind her, farther down the hall, something moved. Someone moved. Fast. She turned just as a man in a security jacket reached her and slammed her into the wall so hard, Marcus heard the impact even through the door. Gina gasped behind him. The man bent over her throat. Marcus backed away from the monitor like it might reach through the screen. The pounding stopped. The woman never got back up. The security guard did. He rose stiffly, swaying once, then turned his head toward the suite door, as though he could smell them through the glass. Marcus hit the deadbolt, then the second lock. Then he dragged a filing cabinet across the entry while Gina helped with shaking hands. The guard struck the glass once. Again. Again. "Marcus," Gina whispered, "we need to leave." He looked around the control room, the board, the sound processors, the station archive server, the portable recorder kit in the equipment locker. The station had become a bunker made of electronics and bad decisions. She was right. He snapped into motion. Grab bags, water, anything with batteries. What about the broadcast? He looked at the live board. Gina's open mic still glowed. The station's automation system could fill dead air for a while with emergency music loops and pre-recorded legal IDs. Meaningless, but not silence. He routed emergency automation, brought down the live feeds, and on impulse opened a spare microphone channel. "This is KBRN Local," he said, voice steadier than he felt. "We are experiencing a severe citywide emergency. If you're indoors, stay away from anyone behaving violently. Avoid direct contact. Do not approach the injured unless you are certain they are safe. We are switching to emergency automated broadcast until further notice." He hesitated, thumb hovering over the fader, then added, "And if you're hearing an unauthorized message about Blackthorn Tower, you are not the only one." Gina stared at him. "Too much?" he asked. "Not enough." He cut the mic. The security guard hit the glass again. Harder this time. A crack spidered through one corner. Marcus yanked open the equipment locker and threw a portable field recorder, 2 handheld radios, a battery brick, spare headphones, and a compact mixer into a courier bag. Then he grabbed the station laptop and stuffed it in too. Gina gathered bottled water, protein bars left over from a promotion nobody respected, and a first aid kit the size of a lunchbox. The city outside the window flashed blue and red in erratic bursts. Gunfire sounded again, closer. Then the emergency automation cut out, not because Marcus turned it off, because something overrode it. Static tore through the studio speakers like ripping metal. Then the calm male voice returned, louder than before, clear enough to make the hairs rise on Marcus's arms. If you can hear this, get to Blackthorn Tower. Repeat. If you can hear this, get to Blackthorn Tower. How is he doing that? Gina said. Marcus was already looking at the spectrum display on the monitor. The hijack had come in strong and clean, directly on the station's active broadcast chain, bypassing half their safeguards. This isn't some guy with a ham rig, he murmured. The suite door boomed behind them. The cracked glass shivered. Marcus made a decision. We're going there. Gina stared at him as if he had suggested they move to the moon. Because a mystery voice told us to? Because whoever it is has power, equipment, and enough coverage to break into commercial stations. And that means they probably know more than we do. The glass cracked again. That ended the debate. They shoved open the rear service exit into the stairwell and started down. The first 5 floors were silent, except for their own footsteps and the ragged sound of their breathing. Emergency lights pulsed dim red against concrete walls. Somewhere below, doors slammed and people shouted over one another in fractured bursts. At the 8th floor landing, they found a man crouched against the wall in a blood-spotted dress shirt, staring at his hands. Marcus recognized him vaguely from another office. "Hey," Marcus said, "can you move?" The man looked up. His face was wrong. Not dead, not yet, but slick with fever and confusion. There was a bite mark on his wrist. Gina saw it too. "Marcus." The man tried to stand. "I need help." Marcus wanted to help. For one clean, awful second, he truly did. But then he remembered the callers, the hallway camera, the woman dragged to the floor outside the suite. He took a step back instead. "I'm sorry," he said. They kept moving while the man began to sob behind them. By the 6th floor, the sounds below had changed. More screaming, less language. At the 4th floor landing, the stairwell door burst inward and 3 people tumbled through from an adjacent office floor. 2 women and a young guy in a blazer with blood all over one sleeve. "Down's blocked," one woman panted. "There's people tearing each other apart in the lobby." Marcus felt the building narrow around them. "Roof?" Gina said. "No," said the other woman instantly. "We checked. Locked access." The young man looked at the bag on Marcus's shoulder. "Do you have a radio? Is anybody coming?" Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing useful came out. Then the building PA crackled overhead with a burst of static so violent everyone flinched. A different voice this time. Real time. Female. Crying. "If anyone can hear me, don't go to the lobby. Don't." A scream cut her off. The stairwell fell silent again. Then from below, something heavy struck the door to the 3rd floor landing. Once. Twice. A chorus of snarls answered it. Marcus looked up the shaft toward the floors above. Down was impossible. Up was a trap. Gina gripped his sleeve. Now what? He thought of the station's windowed corner office. The fire escape ladder bolted to the outside maintenance ledge 3 floors below their suite. Building inspectors had argued for years about whether it technically qualified as code access. Station managers had ignored them all because it was expensive to remove. "Come on," Marcus said. "We go back up." The others followed because fear made groups out of strangers. They climbed fast, lungs burning, until they reached the 12th floor again. The hallway outside the suite was no longer empty. The security guards still hammered at the cracked glass, joined now by the woman he had attacked. Her head jerked wrong each time she hit the door. Marcus pulled the others back around the corner. "There's another way," he said. He led them through a neighboring office whose tenants had already fled. Desk chairs overturned, monitors left glowing, someone's dinner still steaming inside a microwave in the break room. At the far end, maintenance windows opened onto a narrow exterior ledge wrapped around the building's corner. Wind knifed in as Marcus forced the latch. Below, 3 floors down, the old fire ladder clung rusted and ugly to the concrete. The first woman looked over the edge and said, "Absolutely not." Something screamed in the hallway behind them. Her expression changed. "Fine. Maybe." Marcus went first because someone had to. The ledge was narrower than he remembered and slick with drizzle. The city opened beneath him in a depth that made his stomach lurch. Sirens bounced off glass towers. Smoke rose from somewhere near the waterfront. Far below, people ran through traffic that no longer moved. He reached the ladder, tested it once, and started climbing down. One by one, they followed. Gina second, the young man with the bloodied sleeve after that. Then the two women. By the time the last of them reached the lower service platform, the thudding against the 12th floor windows had become a mad, relentless percussion above them. The platform window on the 9th floor opened into an abandoned print shop. From there, they found a rear freight corridor leading to another stairwell that did not open into the main lobby. The young man in the blazer got separated at the 7th floor during a surge of terrified tenants pushing upward. Marcus lost sight of him and never saw him again. One of the women twisted her ankle on the 5th floor landing and refused to slow the others. She barricaded herself in an office kitchenette with a butcher knife from a catered event tray and told them to keep going before they could argue. Marcus still heard the lock click behind her as they fled. By the time he and Gina finally reached the building's underground parking garage through a service tunnel, it was just the two of them. The garage gate was halfway open. Cars sat abandoned at odd angles. One had its driver's side door hanging wide, engine still idling until it coughed itself dead. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The whole place smelled of fuel, wet concrete, and something coppery beneath it. Blood. Gina whispered, "I hate this." Marcus almost smiled. "That makes two of us." They moved between parked vehicles toward the street ramp. Somewhere deeper in the garage, tires squealed and then crashed. A shape stumbled into view between two columns. A woman in high heels, one shoe missing, like face smeared red to the collarbone. She saw them and lunged with such sudden speed, Gina cried out. Marcus grabbed the nearest thing, an umbrella stand someone must have left by the elevator vestibule during a normal universe, and swung it like a bat. The metal pole caught the woman across the temple. She staggered but did not fall. He hit her again. And again. On the third strike, she went down hard beside a white sedan, twitching once before going still. Marcus stood over her panting, knuckles numb around the bent pole. Gina stared at him. I know. Her face had gone pale enough to look gray under the garage lights. Marcus, he dropped the pole. Don't, because if she said it aloud, it would become something real and named. They reached the street at last through the half-jammed gate. Downtown was gone, not physically, not yet, but socially, structurally, spiritually, gone. Storefront glass glittered across sidewalks. A city bus had crashed into a lamppost 3 blocks away. Front end crumpled, passengers pounding from inside or maybe trying to get out. Police lights spun at an intersection where no officers were visible. Smoke drifted between towers, turning the night into layered ghost shapes. Marcus slung the equipment bag higher on his shoulder and looked east. Blackthorn Tower was not visible from here, swallowed by the cluster of high-rises near Harbor East, but he knew roughly where it stood. Gina followed his gaze. "You really think that's where we go now?" It was not a question anymore. Somewhere above them, from an open office window or a car radio left on or 100 hijacked speakers across the city, the same message crackled through the night like a voice speaking from the far side of an ending. If you can hear this, get to Blackthorn Tower. Repeat. If you can hear this, get to Blackthorn Tower. Marcus closed his eyes for 1 second and listened. There was fear in him. Plenty of it. Cold, bright, undeniable. But there was something else too. Something meaner and more useful. Direction. Whoever was sending that signal had cut through the noise when everything else was failing. Through collapsing news feeds, through dead cell towers, through official language that no longer meant anything. That mattered. He opened his eyes. "We find out who's talking," he said. Gina nodded once, jaw tight. Together they stepped into the ruined street, carrying batteries, water, and the last clean signal Marcus trusted, while the city howled around them and the voice from Blackthorn kept calling strangers through the dark.